Welcome to the program. My guest on Politics on Sunday is Professor Femi Olufunmilade. He is a presidential aspirant of the Social Democratic Party, SDP. Welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you very much.
Yes, and you have also published a book, For the Good of Our People, a Nigerian Manifesto. All of these captures your plans, policies, and programs for the country if elected president. And in your vision and mission statement here, it says to create an atmosphere of security, equality, and opportunities for the youth and women, the aged and physically challenged.
Sure.
All of these brilliant ideas are put together. We have passed this road before, and even the current government has come up with some of these in the past, but people are saying, how indeed are you going to do all of this?
Well, I have my model, my political model in Chief Femi Olufunmilade. He wrote 13 books. I've read all. I studied all. When he was going to introduce free education, the British civil servants that were running the bureaucratic machinery of the Western regional government then, they wouldn't touch it because they thought it was just unthinkable. But because he had determination, he reprioritized. He rearranged what should be the priorities of government. He was able to achieve it. If you take the people first, all these trillions, I think the 2022 budget is 16 trillion plus. It is possible to do great and wonderful things for the common people in Nigeria if we make them first. Is to reorder your priorities and ensure that the vulnerable section of the country, those who find it difficult to feed, they will be number one in your thinking when you want to set your priorities, arrange your priorities. In terms of infrastructure, you think of how many will get jobs through this. In terms of, road construction, for instance, you are not going to be thinking of a foreign company that will bring all their staff to Nigeria. You are going to begin to think like, we have faculty, we have consulting services in our universities where they are saying you are not funding them enough. Why can't you contract them to construct roads? If you have people as your priority, then you are also going to rearrange your spendings so that if you are determined to help them, you will actually be able to do a lot with the little we have.
But Prof, are you not worried that Nigeria's politics and the conversation is usually not about ideologies? Your priority may not be the priority of the people, because even the people, it appears, are more inclined to move towards people who maybe come with the money and all of that things, and not ideology. How would you sell your ideas?
Let me tell you, I still believe if you talk to the people and your sincerity rings true, they will support you. I give you an example. I have served in Buhari's Presidential Campaign Council, I think since 2010, effectively. The bulk of those who supported him, they were the so-called downtrodden, the Almajiris of the North. Can you believe that they also contributed money to his campaign? There was this ICT firm that introduced a kind of recharge card that you could buy, you could make contribution by getting the recharge card for 100 naira, 200 naira, 500 naira, 1,000 naira, and so on and so forth. And they made themselves available to police our votes then, to serve as our party agents. It wasn't an arrangement whereby you call people and start doling out money to them. They voted, they monitored their votes, having contributed to the logistics of the election financially. So if you talk to the Nigerian people and you ring through, they know that you mean well. You will see quite a number of them that will gravitate towards you.
He served in the Buhari Presidential Council and even helped develop some of his strategy papers. What would you say the administration deviated from some of these good intentions captured by you and your likes at that time?
Well, I wouldn't want to make a blanket statement on President Buhari's administration, but all I can tell you is that a lot of us are not so happy about the way certain things are being done.
Like what?
For instance, it beats me how none of the 4 refineries is working as we are talking now. That is and the president is the minister of petroleum. I find it difficult to justify that because he had served as minister of petroleum himself. He had headed what is now known as NNPC, when it was Nigeria National Oil Corporation. But he who wears the shoes knows where it pinches. But as for me, I would rather focus on what I know are possibilities. This is maybe some of the ideas that were given to him. Maybe he didn't really buy into them. That could be a problem. That could be a constraint. But in my own case, this book you see here, the research was conducted by me. I discussed it with a number of colleagues. It's 18 chapters. And whether you are talking of food security, whether you are talking of fighting insecurity, whether you are talking of promoting national unity, restructuring the framework of governance and power relations, everything is
yes. You want to be president, and I believe that over time you have studied Nigeria's democracy, studied the kind of leadership we have in Nigeria, and even closely observed the way the country is being run under this current administration. As someone who wants to be president, what lessons would you say you have learned from, of course, this administration on how to run the country as president, and also how not to run the country as president?
Let me tell you,
perspective of someone who wants to be president.
Let me tell you, the other time when I met the press, the day I did my formal declaration, expression of interest to contest on the platform of the Social Democratic Party at the headquarters of the party, I made a statement that my goal is to have 100% implementation of my budget. Most of the problems that we face in terms of abandonment of project, corruption, etc., are facilitated by the fact that there is a lot of secrecy in the way public funds are disbursed and expended. In my own government, I have something that I call budget implementation monitoring system. You will have a website where any Nigerian that is interested can monitor the way funds are disbursed from the budget for a particular year to the MDAs, ministries, departments, and agencies, and for what purpose.
Let's take a short break at this point, and we'll be back to continue the discussion around governance with Professor Femi Olufunmilade. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. Our guest is still Professor Femi Olufunmilade, a presidential aspirant of the Social Democratic Party. So you're from the academia as we speak.
Yeah.
The Academic Staff Union of Universities is on strike. I know from their own perspective, it appears as if there are no deliberate plans and policies of government targeted at improving the education sector, especially when it concerns welfare of lecturers who are supposed to impart knowledge. What would you say is wrong in that sector, and what will you do differently if elected president?
Well, the day that I am elected president, the Nigerian university system is going to reclaim its lost glory from that day forward, resetting your priorities in line with prioritizing people as the focus of every policy, plans, and programs. You must know that the essence of it all, the best way to justify every kobo you spend in government is how many people will it bring benefit to? How many problems will it solve for Nigerians? And that was why I introduced free education, because, you know, education is liberating. I am going to give serious priority to the education sector, because the kind of economy I want to build is a knowledge-based economy. Today we are in the age of, in the digital age, where people talk of robotics, fintech, cryptocurrency, and all the rest of that. If you want your country to move at a fast pace, you must integrate those who conduct research with industries and other sectors that are germane to accelerating your development. Universities of agriculture, for instance, will create a greater synergy between them and the agricultural sector, such that many of our professors, they will be in various farm settlements across the country, where they are actually teaching the people the right thing to do, not as agric extension workers, but to even look at, oh, the soil here, this is the challenge. If we can do this to work on this soil, soil scientists can do that. So the same thing with industry. Most of the products our manufacturers manage to produce here locally, they are more or less foreign products. We are going to have a situation where universities will be centers of innovation, polytechnics, the same thing. You go there and say, look, this particular machine that we brought in from India or whatever is, after 2 years, it packs up. Can you help us remodel something like this or produce something better than this? And there will be some funds for innovation that will make that possible. And I'm also going to do something. There will be a particular percentage of the profits made by Nigerian industries that will be dedicated to research and development. That is what is done in other countries. And it doesn't mean they must have a research and development apparatus of their own. They can make use of the nearest university or polytechnics to them. This way, the universities themselves will be able to generate a lot of funds through their consultancy services that will augment whatever federal government is, or state government or whatever level of government is making available to them. They will also, I'm going to enable them to do the things they have the capacity to do, because of the kind of human resources they have. The consultants, every university in the country must have a robust consultancy unit where you have engineering section, section that deals with industries, the ones that deals with agriculture, the ones that deals with marketing and packaging and all sorts of things. We have a lot of highly gifted people. We are going to integrate that sector to industry, to the society, so that we will be able to kill two birds with one stone. One, we will be able to get them funded properly, and then we will be able to make the best use of their expertise for national development.
Talking about funding them properly, yes, I was coming to that all of this will cost money. And as it is, what we hear is that there's no money, the resources are scarce. Will you borrow to fund all of these projects? And then, my question is, how do you approach the issue of external borrowing?
Let me tell you, when I was an undergraduate of political science, and I studied political economy, one topic that brought a lot of sadness to us as patriotic young people, impressionable, growing with zeal, love of our country, was what was called the debt trap. It was a neo-colonial tool. Most African countries were indebted to the London and Paris Club of Creditors. They were indebted to World Bank and IMF. And through that, they had to vet our annual budget before we could pass our budget. And that was the era when we introduced SAP, deregulating everything that can be deregulated, devaluing our currency. There was a freeze on wages. That is, you cannot increase worker salaries. And there was also rationalization of the workforce that even led to the toppling of some regimes. In my own case, as president, I am not going to borrow money to fund things that will not repay that fund. If we have a project that is economic, in nature that is business oriented. Maybe we want a national airline, and there is a cash flow projection that if they take loan to start that airline, so it will pay it off. Nigeria is a big market. I can allow that. But to run my recurrent, pay staff salaries and all the rest of that, I will never do that. What I'm going to do is to ensure that what is on the ground is well managed. Chief Awolowo, as Federal Commissioner for Finance, ran the economy of Nigeria and left it with surplus money during the Civil War.
But
and it wasn't Commissioner of Finance when there was oil. The oil started coming in just as he was leaving office.
That's what I'm coming. I said the dynamics have changed. That is how many years ago.
What I'm trying to tell you is that if you prioritize properly and you plug all these wastes, don't you read newspapers and see how much money are reported stolen on a daily basis? We have 4 refineries, for instance. They are not refining even 1 liter of oil. And yet you have MD there, you have directors, you have a retinue of staff who is paying them. And what they get is not what a professor gets. They get so much more. How sensible is that? Those are avenues for waste. If I become the president of Nigeria, if they have not yet privatized those refineries, I will privatize them. Because I cannot pay people salaries for doing nothing. I cannot repair a refinery that will be sabotaged so that those who live by importing fuel, dirty fuel, can continue to rip off this country. I'm going to put those refineries in the hands of those who know how to do business, that will make money from it and maybe give us something too. We also earn something from it.
What about security if you become president? Because this is a very big issue, consuming a large chunk of the federal budget now. The defense budget is swelling every year. Insecurity,
let me tell you,
has not really been tackled.
Let me tell you, when I was part of the Presidential Campaign Council of President Buhari, I was in 2 directorates. I was in Finance and Admin. That was in 2014, 2015. I was also in policy. There was a gentleman from Port Harcourt who was the chair of the Finance and Admin Directorate. He called me one day that I should make that they needed my input into the policy papers of the party against winning. We were projecting that we will win. So I wrote the defense policy and the foreign policy of the APC. Now, in that defense policy, I made a strong recommendation for the development of what is called a domestic military industrial complex. Arms and ammunition are the most expensive commodity in the global marketplace. So any country in the 21st century that relies absolutely on importing rifles, importing tear gas, cartridges, and all that, is not a serious country at all. We have a DICON, Defense Industry Corporation of Nigeria. It was set up in 1964, at the same time that Brazil set up their own Defense Industry Corporation. Brazil's own is producing all kinds of things, including jet fighters. But our own can hardly produce even rifles, as we are talking about now. Why is it not producing? If I become president, I will ensure that I bring in private sector operators who will partner with us to make that place fly. And the market is there. All our guns, all our arms and ammunition that they are capable of producing up to standard for the military, for the police, civil defense, immigration and all the rest, we will purchase it from them, and then we explore market within West Africa. So that is one area that I'm going to look into in the long run, so that we will be self-sufficient. Once our people in the armed forces are well armed with up-to-date equipment, and there is no problem of, America is not willing to sell us to Kano. They are not willing to sell us. That creates a lot of gap for all these people that are into banditry and all the rest of it to gain grounds. Then we are going to really have a robust time securing the country. But in the immediate time, the vulnerable communities around the border areas, especially in the northern part of the country, that all these bandits go there, they pick them up like they pick snails. I'm going to arm them. There is what we call civil mobilization for self-defense. All those Chibok communities, some communities in Niger State and all the rest of it, I'll take an inventory of them. We will call for volunteers among them. Something akin to what you call civilian GTF in Borno, it will be replicated. But in this case, it's not as if they will abandon their regular job. Like if they are farmers, they continue with their farming. But let's take Chibok, for instance. Maybe I'm able to get 80 able-bodied young men there. We will give them a crash training within a month in weapon handling and some tactics, how to do joint operations and all that, and surveillance, so that anybody that is thinking of attacking that community, I'm a bandit or whatever, we know that it's like going to attack a military barrack. Because this idea of knocking people's door and taking them to away for ransom will not happen, because they have guns and I will get them the best of guns. So that is what I will do in the short run to ensure that, and then there will also be a lot of investment in youth empowerment, youth employment creation. In the northern part, for instance, all these young people they call almajiris, I have my plans for them. I'm going to take them off the streets and engage them.
I would like you to talk about these before we'll draw the curtains. You are running on the platform of the Social Democratic Party.
Yes.
And if you look at Nigeria's political space, a lot of people will say it's divided between two major political parties, the All Progressives Congress and the People's Democratic Party. Running on the platform of the SDP, do you think you and your party stands a chance confronting these huge parties with so much influence, widespread outreach?
Let me tell you, those within those two major parties that you are talking about, if you go and look at the number of the population of Nigeria, those who are of voting age, those who have registered to vote, and those who actually vote, you discover that in even the last election, majority of those who collected their PVCs did not vote because they were disenchanted with those two parties you are talking about. So they need an alternative. What happened in 2019 was that they did not also see any serious visibility of the alternative parties anywhere as to give them that courage that if I go and vote, waste my time, risk insecurity, then there will be justification for it with the outcome. But this time around, SDP has its chapters all over the country, up to local government level and in many places the world level. And the greatest advantage we have is that even if in 2019 Nigerians were tired of these two dominant parties and the gladiators therein, they are even 100% more frustrated and tired of them.
Who is the authentic chairman of the Social Democratic Party?
There is nothing like authentic. We have one chairman, and that is Dr. Olufunmilade. If you go to INEC website, you will see his name there.
But there was a crisis recently. Has it been resolved?
There will always be people that, for one reason or the other, are not happy. Even as you are here, there are some people that, for whatever reason, they are not too happy with you. But you are not going to allow that to hold you back from marching forward. The SDP has been participating in even some of the elections, that like Osun and Ekiti. We have candidates for Ekiti, for instance, in the person of His Excellency Governor Segun Oni. So if the party is not recognized, if the leadership of Agunloye and Gabam is not recognized, will somebody like Engineer Segun Oni have come forward to pick a form to run on the platform of the party? So I'm appeal to those who, for one reason or the other, are not happy, is that they should shed their swords. With somebody like me in the party, I have a master's in peace and conflict studies. I'm a man that is professionally equipped to resolve conflict.
All right.
I will want them to come together, and my candidacy, by the grace of God, will be one. I'm not going to throw them away and say this. I'm going to reconcile everybody to be on the boat.
All right.
But the leadership that is there legally and recognized by INEC must be recognized by all.
All right, indeed, Professor Femi Olufunmilade, Presidential Aspirant of the Social Democratic Party. Thank you for your time on the program, sir.
My pleasure, sir.
Thank you.